Welcome back, friends, and thanks for tuning in. On my last video, we went back in time thanks to Automobilista 2 to relive the 1967 South African Grand Prix, where I hung on for a third-place finish in my Lola BMW. Today, we fast forward about 7 years thanks to the magic of modern computers and outstanding race simulators, and revisit the 1974 Brazilian Grand Prix held at the Interlagos Circuit in Brazil. Now, I'm sure almost all of you are too young to remember the oil crisis of 1973. This had a serious impact on the world economy, oil prices, and car manufacturing we still feel today. It was a result of an oil embargo by Arab members of OPEC, the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, imposed on the U.S. after the U.S. supported Israel in their war against several Arab countries. OPEC cut oil production and increased the cost of oil by more than 4 times, from $2.90 a barrel to a whopping $11.65 per barrel. As a result, U.S. auto manufacturers shifted production to smaller, more fuel-efficient cars. Small imports such as Honda, Toyota, and Nissan gained a firm foothold in the U.S. marketplace. The government also imposed CAFE, or corporate average fuel efficiency standards, that forced manufacturers to sell more fuel-efficient cars. There were also environmental restrictions that further robbed power from American cars. We lament the loss of the almighty American muscle car, and although Mustangs, Camaros, and others were still produced, they were essentially sheep in wolf's clothing. Since 1971, the Ford Mustang was getting fat and lazy. It went from this to this. And can you believe the Thunderbird, developed as a sporty 2-seater, bloated to this 1974 barge? Now, I'm a Ford guy, but Ford was losing its way during this period. Detroit still made some cool-looking cars, but they had lost their teeth due to the emission requirements and fuel efficiency standards demanded by the public. In 1974, the Indy 500 was won by Johnny Rutherford driving a McLaren M16. He was a popular winner and an exciting race. Henry Pescarolo won his third of 4 24 Hours of Le Mans, driving a Matra MS 670 Charlie. And in my opinion, the F1 cars of 1973 to 1974 were the most elegant and beautiful of all time. The Lotus 72 had unique styling, aggressive lines, and it looked like it was cutting through the air like a knife even when standing still. It was quite striking, particularly in its black and gold JPS livery. The Ferrari 312T was a work of art like most Ferraris. It was elegant and had class and style. It was a winner. The Brom PT44 looked stubby, but for some reason, the design always resonated with me in its white livery, and it too was fast. The stubby Tyrrell 006 was quite nimble and looked like it got halfway out of the garage when somebody shut the door on it, but it too had a unique ugly duckling appeal. Today we're going to concentrate on a car that perhaps is arguably the most beautiful F1 car ever designed, the McLaren M23. It was developed for the 1973 season to replace the M19 that had been around for 2 years. It was powered by the ubiquitous Ford Cosworth DFV engine and produced about 490 blower horsepower. Denny Hulme put it on pole on debut at the South African Grand Prix in 1973, so I guess they got it right. Hulme went on to win the Swedish Grand Prix and Peter Revson the British and Canadian Grand Prix that year. Emmerson Fittipaldi joined the team in 1974, bringing with him Texaco and Marlboro sponsorship. His experience with the Lotus 72 and enthusiasm for the car led to further developments. The wheelbase was lengthened and the track widened. Fittipaldi scored 3 victories en route to his second World Championship, and Denny Hulme took another race, giving McLaren their first Constructors' Championship. In 1975, McLaren was the first team to develop a 6-speed gearbox and was first to use side skirts to develop downforce, a precursor to the ground effects first seen in the Lotus 78 several years later. In 1976, tall airboxes were banned because they had a nasty habit of falling off, with the slightest bit of contact becoming a hazard to drivers, and their effectiveness for jamming air into the intakes was no longer significant. Fittipaldi left the team to join his brother's Copersucar team, and he was replaced by the controversial James Hunt. Hunt was a prodigal soul, but also very fast. He went on to win 6 races that year, and a controversial world championship for himself, and second Constructors' Championship for McLaren. This was documented in the Ron Howard outstanding movie Rush, and I highly recommend this movie to all race fans, and I'm sure many of you have probably already seen it. And in spite of being 4 years old, the M23 was still competitive in 1977, scoring several poles and podiums. In total, the M23 won 16 Grand Prix from 84 starts, 2 driver championships and 2 constructor championships, and was a dominant car of the 1970s. So this brings us to the 1974 F1 season that kicked off on the 13th of January in Argentina, the first of 15 races. As I mentioned, Fittipaldi had left Lotus to join McLaren and was teamed with Mike the Bike Halewood, who had left Surtees. Jackie Ickx left Ferrari to take Fittipaldi's place. Clay Regazzoni and Niki Lauda were snatched from BRM and signed with Ferrari. Ken Tyrrell had no drivers left from the 1973 season, with the retirement of Jackie Stewart and the death of Francois Sever. He signed Jody Scheckter and Patrick Depailler to fill the void. Peter Revson, unable to come to terms with McLaren, signed with Shadow and joined Jean-Pierre Jarier. 2 American teams joined the F1 circus in Canada. Roger Penske entered his car, driven by the super talented Mark Donohue, and Parnelli Jones entered his car for the legend Mario Andretti. Now, 1974 was a hard-fought season with Emmerson Fittipaldi and Clay Regazzoni tied in points going into the final race at Watkins Glen in October. Regazzoni unfortunately experienced handling issues and fell back in the pack, while Fittipaldi finished 4th, scoring 3 points and securing his 2nd world championship. The racing was close, the cars the most beautiful, and it was the best of times for Formula One, in my opinion. If only all seasons could be so good. 2 drivers lost their lives that year. Peter Revson was killed in a practice in his Shadow at the Kyalami circuit in South Africa, and Helmut Koenig was killed in a Surtees at the Watkins Glen circuit in the United States. Both died, as did Francois Sever in 1973, due to poor maintenance of the Armco barriers and poor consideration of track safety that plagued racing at that time. Now, Automobilista 2 is awesome for driving historical cars on historical tracks. Thanks to modders out there, we can download more accurate paint schemes with accurate driver helmets to give us the full immersion in our racing. AMS2 Formula Retro Gen 1 cars let us relive the cars and races from this golden age of Formula One. There are accurate models of the Brabham, Lotus, McLaren, and I think the Tyrrell and Shadow cars are molded as well. In this race, I'm driving a pseudo Surtees V8 on the historic Interlagos track that dated from 1940 to 1979. Now, according to Wikipedia, the next iteration of this track was from 1980 to 1988, but to tell you the truth, I don't see any difference in the tracks. You can see the bones of the old track on aerial photographs of the current track, and most of the old track is still present. Now, this version, dated from 1940 to 79, is much longer and I think more challenging. It has a combination of 17 high-speed fifth-gear corners as well as slow first-gear corners and is 4.82 miles long. The original race was 40 laps long, and since I'm doing quarter-distance races, this race will be 10 laps long. I did manage to qualify 6th. Unfortunately, I didn't record the qualifying times, and it's a very competitive field that includes 4 world champions. So here is the qualifying order without the times. I did manage to qualify 6th, which I thought was pretty good, so let's see how we did.
Let's go.
That was an absolutely crazy start, and both of the Lotuses of Ronnie Peterson and Jackie Hicks got off the line very poorly, and I was very fortunate not to run into them, or when I took evasive action, not to run into Vicky Lotta, who's to my right.
Still there. Still there. Still there. On your right. You're in the middle. Clear left.
I had Mike the Bike Halewood to my right and Carlos Reutemann, and I dove into the second turn there and was very grateful that we didn't make any contact. Now I have the spotter turned on, which you really wouldn't have in this era, but I think it helps when you're watching the video for figuring out what's going on. In addition, Jim keeps referring in this recording to Carlos Reutemann as Redmond. Now that is not Brian Redmond, it is Carlos Reutemann, so just be aware of that. And in this downloaded F1 file for the 74 season, the second Brom is driven by Richard Roberts, when in reality it was driven by Carlos Pace. So once again, as in the race on my last video, I'm really focused on not making any mistakes like bumping into Carlos Reutemann like that. That will damage your suspension. And I did pick up a little bit of suspension damage there. But I don't want to make any mistakes. I want to keep it on the track, drive a little bit conservatively, and finish the race. So here we are coming up on Curva 1. It's a quick downshift from 5th to 4th. Touch the brakes and then get hard on the gas, and it's basically flat out if you get it right through Curva 2 on the way down to Curva 3.
Car right.
Past Reutemann with plenty of time before the next turn.
He's still there.
Entering Curva 3, it's a downshift from 5th to 4th to 3rd.
Right.
Get back on the gas as quickly as you dare, and when you go through this next turn, which is Zhangkao, it's flat out, coming up to a little bit of a real brief little S, which it's real easy for the car to get loose and spin out there. So I brake early, downshift into second gear for this turn. That was called Ferradura. This is a long sweeping right-hand turn, second gear called Subida do Lago. Up to fourth gear, quick down into third for Curva do Sol. Kind of feathering the throttle through here. And then right about here you can get on the gas real hard. And then I brake early for this one because it's a deceptively sharp turn. You want to be down in second gear and just kind of coast through this portion of the turn called Curva do Sargento. Second gear again, just kind of feathering the throttle to get through there. into Laranja, down into first gear, stay in first gear. This is called Penharino. Up into Codabello, another first gear turn. Now this is the turn I probably have the most difficulty with. It's called Mergulo, and I'm a little bit hesitant to get on the gas as much as the AI does. I don't want the car to drift off the track. But it's also the most important turn because it leads onto the long straightaway. Now here we're going flat out through a very fast sweeping left-hander called Arquibancadas. Back onto the main straight, past the pits.
242.0.
And that completes the lap. We're going down into curve 1, which I really screw up here and get very wide. If you do that right, flat out, and it's a good place for me to pick up ground on the AI, but I really messed that one up. Now, at the beginning of the race, Carlos Reutemann is right on my tail, really keeping the pressure on. But if you look back into 4th, 5th, and 6th, there's a whale of a battle between Ronnie Peterson in his Lotus, Nicky Lauda in his Ferrari, and Mike Hailwood in his McLaren. So Curva 3 and Juncao, which is what we're going through now, really gives you a sensational feeling of speed. You're just going right through there and you just feel that ground rushing past your car. It's a really great sensation when you get it right. great run on Fittipaldi here
Clear right.
and was going for the lead, but I was on the inside of the turn and I braked early because I didn't want to drift out into him and ruin both of our races. Now this next turn, that little wiggle S, is so difficult because you're doing multiple things with the car. You're downshifting from fourth to second gear. You're hitting the brakes. You're turning left briefly and then back, turning right briefly and then back left. And cars don't like all that stuff going on. It's real easy for the car to get unstable and spin out. Not quite close enough to make the run on Fittipaldi up ahead. Now I realize I'm leaving a lot on the track here because you can see I don't come all the way out to the edge, even though that one's a little bit better. Typically I don't go out that far, so I can definitely take that turn a little bit faster. And that's the importance of reviewing your videos after you've done racing to see what your line is and where you can improve and pick up some speed.
is now 0.8.
You can see that Carlos Reutemann has fallen into the grips of Ronnie Peterson and Nicky Lauda behind me as I screw up this turn big time. And it looks like Mike Halewood has fallen further back. So they're putting on a ding-dong battle for third, fourth, and fifth. Fortunately, I have about a 2.5 second lead over that group. I just realized that looking at that little chart on the bottom left that shows the gaps, that it jumps all over the place, so it really can't be counted on. Right now it's showing 3 seconds, it'll go down to 1.5 seconds, and a little while ago it was out at 5 seconds, so I've just realized really can't depend on that to tell you what the actual gap is. Crossing the finish line.
Fittipaldi ahead.
2 laps to go.
Come on, you're looking good for a podium.
Well, I was able to hang with Fittipaldi, but I just can't seem to catch him. And this lap in particular is not the greatest in the world.
2.0.
So at one point I looked and I had about a 3-second gap on Lauda behind me. And it seems like I'm pretty comfortably in second place and, you know, gaining a little bit, then losing a little bit to Fittipaldi in front. And now, much to my surprise, I'm looking in my mirror and there, right on my tail, is Niki Lauda. How did I lose that much time in such a short distance? Anyways, he is right there now going into the last lap. About a lap and a half left. It's like, am I driving that slow? Didn't seem like it. But I did drop quite a bit behind Fittipaldi, which is now a 4.3 second gap.
The leader has just done 241.2.
So starting the last lap, I need to keep my head down,
Keep it together. We'll be on
keep it on the track, get a good lap
Just
in.
done a 240.9. The gap behind is now 0.4.
Running wide here at Subida do Lago, however you say that in Portuguese, did not help my cause at all. A bunch of little mistakes is really costing me, and now Lauda's trying to come up on the inside. Hard place to pass there. And this section right here I do actually pretty well compared to the AI. Lauda's making another lunge up, and I'm running a little bit wide. Not helping my cause at all. Thinking that these turns up ahead are first gear corners and not great places for overtaking. As long as I protect my position and don't make any mistakes and go off the track, I should be able to hold off Lauda, but here he comes again.
Left side.
Alongside, on my left side.
Still clear left.
If I can get through this turn, I should be able to stay ahead and finish second.
Car right.
You can see Reutemann's Brown is smoking like a bandit there, and he's about to lose his engine. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to finish. So he's in serious trouble. But if I can get through this, I'll breathe a sigh of relief because I think I can take it to the finish line here. But there's going to be a real tight battle for the podium between Lauda and Peterson. Look how close that
Well
was.
done. Decent drive.
So we'll bring it back to the pits and shut her down. We'll be standing on the podium with the winner, Emmerson Fittipaldi, and Niki Lauda, who finished third. So here are the results. We finished in a very credible second place. It was a lot closer and a lot more exciting than I had anticipated. We had 4 non-finishers out of a field of 26. And in the real race, there were 25 starters and 8 drivers failed to finish. So that was the 1974 Brazilian Grand Prix. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed it. And we'll see you again soon.